So Paladins OB47 has just been announced by the developers, and we've got all the juicy information about this patch. Today I'm going to be breaking down mainly the nerfs and buffs, but also all the other changes briefly that this patch has brought. Now also, just to mention, I'm not quitting Paladins, it was only a joke, and I know a lot of people are like, why did you put April the 1st in the title, because that just ruined the joke, but I mean, I'm like 150 subscribers down, and there's a lot of people that have not taken it as a joke, so I think that sort of shows why I put April the 1st in the title, and that didn't even work, but hey, I guess you roll some dice, and sometimes you don't get what you wanted to roll. Anyway, let's get on with the patch. So just a service announcement, if you are going to go onto the public test server, at the moment the feature that auto buys items has been fixed in the game. Now it's set on default, and if you want to take that off, go into your options, go to gameplay, and it's a tick box. Now I really hope they don't make this default going forwards, because it doesn't seem to be working that well at the moment. Whether or not it was the bots, but we went up against the new PV mode, which is against 5 invisible Drogos. Yes, there's also that as well. And actually this one is a PV mode that I don't think is completely unfun and might be possible with certain lineups, so we'll have a look at that again. But what it did, this auto buy, is bought Haven against 3 Drogos. So it doesn't really give me faith in this auto buying system. Now, when I played it in a normal game, it did buy some more regular items, but still, it's never going to be the same as looking yourself, judging who the players you're against are and what their skill level is, what's needed most, what your other teammates have picked. I'd definitely say to uncheck it to most people. I mean, I've even got an item guide video up if you are struggling with picks in the game. A few other general things that they've just tweaked is that they've made the UI look a lot nicer. Like the first title screen is nicer, it's got a bit more depth to it. Like you look out into a bit more of a landscape. There's a new background to the chest opening and to the store when you're looking through the skins. There's a new background there. There seems to be a shade of change that has been applied to the menus and the champion previews, which does make the game look better for the most part. Although I don't think it completely goes over into the game itself. So this might be a peek at the future of how they might tweak with the graphical settings to make everything look a little bit better. Basically the shadows, just a bit more boldness to them, and there seems to be a bit more done with the lighting. Not perfect, but it definitely looks better in my opinion at the moment. They've also added card backs to all the champions that are missing, so now there aren't any of these temp art cards that you saw before. Basically it had a bit of random art that didn't really relate to the card. And now, actually, there's some pretty amazing art going on with all of the champions, and they're all specialized just for that champion. Now, I went back to Hearthstone, and I was looking through a few of the cards, and I was thinking, actually, wow, the art in Paladins is pretty damn good on the cards. When you actually look at some of the Hearthstone cards, they're actually a bit blurry when you zoom it in fully. Although some of them are better, because some of them are have mini animations. But for the most part, the cards in this game are great. I like the art very much, the concepts on that. And I think in general, basically, they've made the game look a lot more professional and more finished, and it just looks a lot more polished as a whole. And I think that's something to give a pat on the back to the art team right there. So some more general things they've added is they've added some titles to the champion mastery. So once you reach level 20 with a champion, which actually I haven't done with any of my champions, my closest is Androxus at level 19, but you get a title for your champion. And this is a nice first step to those mastery rewards that they've been talking about. There's also a tweak to the UI again, just showing what's available at each level for your mastery. So those first few levels where you get the chests, then the gold that you get when you reach certain levels, and then that title at the end. And hallelujah folks, they brought the VGS, you know, the voice command system, back to the play of the game / the end victory screen, so you can spam your woos and your well dones when you finish a game. And that's good of them to go back on that and fix that up. Now we just need to be able to skip the play of the game. I'm only going to lightly cover the skins in this video, but the first one, the most important, is that they're giving away a volcanic Makoa skin for free to people that are level 30 and above, before the game goes live out of beta, so it could be a while anyway. And it's a very generous offering, because this skin is pretty damn epic. It's got fire on your fire spin, magma when you put your shield up, and also the volcano erupts when you go into your ultimate. And it's just generally a nice touch from hi-rez. Unfortunately, currently on the public test server, you can't unlock it. Like, it's just locked, so you can't get it. So hopefully it isn't April Fool's. There's also the Kinessa Nova Strike, which is 400 crystals But basically, it's a bounty hunter set for Ganessa. Looks really cool, but it's actually got a new nice feature, I think, that there's 4 sets of helmets, but you unlock them by winning games with Ganessa. Now, I think this could be quite interesting to expand upon and do with other skin sets, and maybe do, like, it could have been more interesting if it was with Ganessa, like some of the helmets were like, get 20 headshots in a certain time period, or get 5 headshots in a game, 5 headshot kills. That could have been quite interesting to make the achievements a lot more worthy, and maybe just not making it just wins. But this is an awesome step and an interesting idea for a skin set, so that's pretty cool. And also we had the Burrito Shaolin. Even though the esports team has left, the old team with Bird and Lazy and everybody have moved to Carbon 6, but still, I mean, as an org, they did win the HRX, and the skin looks okay. It's like a Burrito t-shirt. The cool thing about it, I think, is the shades. Just makes Shaolin look like a dude. And again, to mention, there's a new PV mode called Layer of the Dread Hunter. Now, there's 5 invisible Drogos, and they are ridiculously accurate, and they sort of just skulk around the map. Now, although they are accurate, I think with a barrack and with a load of guys with AoE damage, it might be possible to do this PV mode. And the first time I played it, we had a bad lineup for it, but we did get 3 wins. And you can sort of do quite a lot as a Drogos, taking them out. We'll just have to see on this one. I might do a video on it at a later date. There's also 2 test maps, Waterway and Sandbridge. Personally, I didn't enjoy Waterway that much. Maybe it'll grow on me, but Sandbridge was rather fun from what I played, although I did fall off the edge a few times where I didn't expect to fall off. There's a lot of verticality to it, and a teleporter under some of the buildings. And there's a lot of ways to escape and come back from different levels. So anyway, let's get on to the most important things, the nerfs and the buffs, and the overall balancing that champions have seen in the game. So first off, I did do a video about how Bomb King had gotten so good in the last patch, and we've seen a slight nerf. Now, there's no full figures for the Bomb King, but basically his sticky bombs will now have damage fall off in that AoE where basically there's a blast radius around where you explode your sticky. So now you'll actually have to make sure your sticky bomb gets as close as possible to the enemy before detonating it. Before, you were able to sort of spam your stickies and detonate them quite quickly and successively and get a lot of damage in an area. So Bomb King was performing quite well and was casual stomping and was almost always picked the last patch. So we'll just have to see how this plays out here. It probably is going to hurt him quite a bit and push him down a bit in the meta. I mean, he's still got all the utility of the Bomb King and the maneuverability and the health, so he's definitely not now irrelevant. Cassie has seen an ever so slight buff, with health going from 2100 to 2200 HP at base. It's only a little nudge, but Cassie has been one of the champions that sort of was pushed out of the meta recently. Not that she was terrible, but that she just wasn't up there with the other damage champions. Unfortunately, the loadouts in the PTS reset, so I was playing with a default for a couple of the rounds as I kept forgetting to make a loadout. So I don't think it's like a drastic change, it's just 100 health, but it's always a nice little nudge for Cassie. So Grok has seen some changes and sort of shifting him a bit away from the damage at all of his levels of play, and focusing just Maelstrom on the damage. First off, they've changed his legendary Totemic Ward to have the healing bonus go from 20% to 50%, so that's a pretty big deal. And why they've done this is that they felt that with the Maelstrom card, the Grok was being too powerful with damage and having too much utility with the healing, and they reduced the healing of his healing ward from 520 per second to 420 per second base. That does mean that Totemic Ward will do 210 damage extra a second, so taking that to 630 HP a second if you're in the Totemic Ward, but also means that you're slightly nerfed if you are playing as that sort of aggressive damage Grok, that off healer. Grok's Maelstrom has also been changed to be buffed from having an increased cooldown reduction of shock pulls from 0.1 to 0.3 seconds per hit. But this comes with Thunderstruck being reworked to reduce your overheat rather than your shock pulse, which does mean that builds outside of Maelstrom are going to struggle with having and being able to spam the shock pulse as much as the Maelstrom Grok does. To be honest, it probably balances it out with that 0.3 seconds. Maybe it's slightly better than having both those cards together before. They're sort of dealing with getting up your shock pulse instantly, making that only unique to the Maelstrom card. So Inara's not really been a pick in a lot of games and sort of shied out of the meta recently. What they've done is given her a few buffs. Her health has gone from 4,500 base to 4,700, and the card Stone Bulwark has increased its healing from 20, 40, 60, or 80 a second to 30, 60, 90, or 120 a second. And this is when she uses her right click, her Earthen Guard, and is just giving her, with her health, some more sustain, especially on the point or wherever she is. And especially with damage reduction, that extra HP does mean quite a lot, because that 200 health will mean more when you have damage reduction in place, and also being able to heal up as well. I don't know whether it's 100% the right way to buff Inara. Again, I was talking about trying to make her totem a bit more useful and be able to place it further away or something like that. I just think that she is a utility tank, and it's not necessarily just the fact that she isn't necessarily hugely tanky, because the problem is a movement really, and maybe the utility of her abilities could have been tweaked rather than just trying to flatly buff her. Now Lex has been slightly nerfed, only if you use the damage card, which a lot of people did. Death Hastens. That's gone from 40% extra damage when people are above 60% health to 30%. I mean, it's not a huge nerf, but it's basically just reducing the amount that you can poke with, as especially when you're firing at people that have full health that far away, you're taking away more health on them, and just slightly reducing your burst potential up close, so you can't two-hit a lot of people. But still, I mean, it's not a big nerf, but I guess it just makes Combat Slide a bit more of an option, although I still think people will probably pick up this card. They still haven't changed the default loadout, which I still can't understand, because basically movement speed doesn't stack, and the highest wins. And there's 3 movement cards in that basic deck. There's one that's 21%, one that's 30%, and one that's 5%. The one that's 5% is passive, but that will get cancelled out by these other movement speed abilities. It's not really a great loadout, to be honest. Probably one of the worst basic decks that there is in the game, and I wish they would have changed that, to be honest. Now, a lot of people have wanted Maeve to come back, and they have given some buffs, but only to her cards, not to her main abilities. So first card is Chase, and that increases movement speed bonus from your Prowl from 8, 16, 24, 32% extra to 10, 20, 30 or 40% extra. Now, the thing is, the Prowl is quite fast on its own. I don't know about this card. I guess it's a nice buff for your Prowl if you do pick up that card. The next one is Patch Up, and it increases your healing from 50, 100, 150 to 200 to 80, 260, 240 to 320. And the Patch Up is the 9 lives extra heal. So it's just giving that extra heal on your 9 lives, and this gives your 9 lives heal even if you don't take the Artful Dodger card. And also Walk Off, the one where you get healed during your Prowl, has gone from 25, 50, 75, 100 to 40, 80, 120 to 60 every second during that Prowl duration. Now these both have made it so that Maeve can be a lot more sustainable, and I think that's where they're giving the buffs compared to just her normal kit, so that she isn't just a super quick and unstoppable burst champion, and just giving her sustain so she can fight for longer. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out, but I don't know whether she will make it into the meta this patch. Maldamba's also seen a buff to his potential damage, in that he has had his projectile speeds increase from 160 to 180. What this actually means in game is that you can fire further before the arc sort of kicks in, and you've also got more range just in general, and also that you'll basically be able to hit people more accurately just generally because your projectiles are moving a bit faster. I think the actual side effect of this is when you're healing somebody, before, because of the arc and because of how far away you would normally be from the champion because you're sort of in the back lines, it was kind of hard to heal and do damage at the same time to targets that were attacking your tank. Now you can sort of right click and left click and sort of hit the range, especially if you're only like say 8 or 10 meters away from your friendly champion and then near to an enemy, you can sort of do both healing and damage at the same time quite easily. And this is definitely a nice one for Maldamba. Finally, Ying has had a slight nerf in that the illusions have a reduced healing range of 100 to 85. They did kind of have a ridiculous range before, and they could basically heal from miles away. And I don't think this is a massive nerf, because if you're an active Ying, you'll be putting down illusions all the time and moving them to where the flow of the battle is going. I think this is going to mainly affect people that are quite passive with Ying and are putting down illusions and not really thinking about them. I think the patches generally have been quite good, but they have missed out Fernando. Now Fernando's been in a bad place for quite a while now, and he just isn't in a good spot, and this patch unfortunately hasn't given our knight in shining armor any love this time. Obviously Sky has always been in a bit of a derpy place, but I think they just don't really know what to do with Skye, as she sort of wrecks in casual play, but then sort of scales down dramatically. As Drybear said before, they're looking at some movement abilities with her as well, which might change up Skye altogether. They also gave some interesting information at the end in the Q&A, and one of them was that they were talking about the maps, and that they've got one in production at the moment, because basically the test maps are just without textures and they just test them out and see which ones work, and then push to actually use all the art to make a proper map. And they've got one new siege map coming soon, TM. It's apparently going to have some lore in that it's related to a champion's backstory, and it's sort of their hometown. Now, the only one I can think of that sort of resembled a hometown, but I might be wrong, is the Androxus, the Dark Tower map, the Dark Castle or whatever. I can't remember what it's called, but there was the sort of like evil castle map that a lot of people did quite enjoy. Which one do you think it would be out of all the test maps that we've already had this so far? Anyway, the public test server is up now, and I'm going to be streaming at some point a little bit later. So if you haven't got the test server updated, be sure to try and do that now, and let's play some custom games together. That could be quite fun. Anyway, what does everyone else think about OB47, the newest patch hitting Paladins? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. Do you think all the additions are good? Do you think that the nerfs and buffs are in the right spot or not? Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you didn't, then you can always dislike if you really have to. And subscribe for more of my content. I'll see you all next time. Joshino.